It all began here on August 31st, 1940. In this little Louisiana town, he had his first taste of what many would say was the city. He also went to a regular school. He states that in 5th grade, it was a no-nonsense but very caring teacher, Miss Hannah Henry, and later Principal Adams, both shown on this slide. He became aware of the value of reading and writing. He was baptized by a gentleman on the left here, this picture, nurtured and mentored by the gentleman on the right, this picture, Brother Luke Schrader. After a visit by Brother Keeble and 2 boy preachers, David Boatwright and Arthur Lee Smith, known as Dr. Molefi Kite Asante, he would leave this small South Haggerty Street church, come north to Nashville, and rest is history, a history that we pay homage to tonight. Now we all know Brother Jones will tell you, nothing is possible without Christ. But you know, sometimes people do different things. There was an atheist scientist who came to God and said, I figured out how to make a man without you. God said, okay, let me see you do it. So the atheist bent down, scooped up a handful of dirt. God stopped him and said, oh, no. You gotta get your own dirt. This quote here, his life was gentle, and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. It's a quote by William Shakespeare from the play Julius Caesar. It sums up tonight's honoree. Speaking to those elements that help mold and make this man are his sister, who stands in place of their brother who is recuperating from surgery, 2 fellow NCI schoolmates via video, his lovely wife, children, and grandchildren. Miss Kirsten Jones. Kirsten graciously shares her granddaddy with 2 others. And I would like them to come up now, Morgan Simone Phillips and Malcolm Stephen Phillips, who have selected something they'd like to share with their grandfather.
We find in your embrace, bring love and the smile on his face.
He has a supply of precious memories, yet has time to wipe a tear.
Or give us reasons to make us laugh that grow more precious through the years.
We believe that God sent his granddaddy as our legacy from above,
to share the moments of our life as extra measures of his love.
Grandmother, we love you too.
Something to just do, I'm sorry. All I can say is I love you, big brother. You are like no other. I'm so happy and proud to be in your family, be a part of what you'll become. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. It's just, I do this. But in a few minutes I'll be okay, okay? I'm sorry. I have written a poem for him, and I might start to tearing things again, but just bear with me, okay? I'm so happy and pleased to be here to join in this celebrating of your 50 years of service with the Israeli Church of Christ. And for this I have written a poem. It is called His Quest. You have done a lot in 50 years, perhaps through many sleepless nights and tears. With God on your side, you had nothing to fear. To continue your quest, to build the best. Now the church stands for any woman, child, or man to come hear God's plan for their life in this world of strife. I am glad you are my big brother, like no other from the same mother.
Everyone. I have so many mixed emotions. If given vent to my feelings, I will just cry right now. But this is a joyous occasion, and I am so happy that my husband is getting what he deserves. It's something I've been praying for. God is in charge, and he has guided this every step of the way. This has been a first-class, no-holds-barred event, starting with the billboard that just blew us away. I've attended many celebrations and affairs all over the United States and in a few foreign countries. But you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to know that a lot of people put a whole lot of work into making this the grand occasion that it is. Please give them a applause. They said they did it because they loved us. And I want to tell all of you, my family and I love you, always have, and always will. I'm not going to call everyone's name. I'm going to leave that to my husband. But I must thank the steering committee, led by Connie and our elders, who approved and supported this effort. Our entire family would like to thank you for giving David his flowers while he can smell them. I want to thank all of you for coming, especially our friends that came as far away as Africa and Bermuda. I'm also happy to see the large number of our family. At this point, I want to ask all of our family to stand. If you're related to us in any way, shape, form, or fashion, will you please stand wherever you're seated, please? Please. Thank you. Now that's a tribute in itself. Now to David as a husband. I would confess, as a young lady, I guess I was like all of you. I wanted a husband. I practiced writing Mrs. in front of my name. And at some point, I may have had some other names besides Jones. I dreamed that my dream man would come and swoop me off my feet, and we would live happily ever after. As I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, I decided to look up the word husband in the dictionary. The number one meaning said, a man with reference to a woman who is married. The number two definition said, any married man. How boring. Someone has said, and you have to listen, get your script. Someone has said, a husband is living proof that a woman can take a joke. For almost 50 years, David has been no joke. He has been a wonderful husband to me. I do not think I could have done better if I tried. It would take too long to elaborate on all of his attributes, but I am going to enumerate just a few of them, very few. First of all, David is a good man. There are some men, as my mother used to say, they're just not good husband material. There are a lot of reasons I say David is a good man, but the number one reason is that he is a Christian man. Second, David, as a husband, is a very loving and caring person. Being that kind of person lends itself to demonstrations of love to innumerable persons. But he finds ways to let me know that behind God, I am the love of his life. Just I'm nervous, that's why I'm almost finished. Just one example of how my husband's caring gene manifested itself. When my mother became ill, David, without hesitation, let her come live with us. He spoiled her rotten. She got to the point where she would try to be at the door when he came in because she knew he was going to give her a big hug and a kiss. Another desirable quality David possesses is that he is an extraordinary provider. He's never been like the man that was seen sitting on the front porch every day. A passerby came by and asked him what he did for a living. He answered, I'm a go-getter. It's about time for my wife to get home from work and I'm going to go get her. And I were members of the youth group at Jackson Street. I witnessed him preach and donate most of his money to help the youth when he badly needed that money himself. Another important role of a husband to me is fatherhood. I've always loved children, and God has blessed us with two of the most wonderful children in the whole world. David has been a proud, loving, and supportive father from day one. The last attribute of David as a husband I will mention is one that is very essential and shapes everything we do. David is a super spiritual leader in our home. He has always loved God and the church. He has helped people in the church, the community, and the world in a multitude of ways. David has helped people accomplish and become what they never thought they could. Throughout his life, he has led thousands to Christ. But I always say charity begins at home. And he has provided the spiritual example in our home by practicing what he preaches. These attributes have made all the difference in the world for our family. In closing, excuse me one more In closing, I just want to read a letter I wrote to David. It seems like only yesterday, that summer in 1956, when you and I were at a church picnic at Brother Albert Gray's house. It was there you borrowed and deliberately kept my ballpoint pen. Being the naive girl that I was, I didn't recognize the method in your madness. I now know it must have blown your game when I told you you could just have it. But being the persistent person that you are, you did not let this stop you, and I'm glad you did. That was 56 years ago. 56 years ago. And after 7 years of courtship and 49 years of marriage, my love for you has only grown. We've had our ups and downs, but thanks be to God, with him as our guide, our downs have been in the minority. During my almost 50 years as a minister's wife, and this is something I can't hardly phantom, but I can't phantom all of this. This has been 50 years and none of this. But anyway, during my almost 50 years as a minister's wife, my goal has been to be an asset to your ministry. There are times when it was a challenging experience, but I have endured diligently to be a loving, encouraging, and supportive helper for you. David, I want you to know I am proud to be your wife, and though I don't tell you often enough, I do appreciate you. I also want to thank you for loving me when I was unlovable, for being an outstanding provider and a wonderful father. Most of all, I want to thank you for providing the great spiritual example and leadership for our children and me. I know, according to the Bible, there won't be any marriages in heaven. But my prayer is that our relationship here on earth will have been to the point that we have enhanced each other spiritually, that when our life on earth is ended, we will meet one day again in heaven.
I'm really glad I can't see all of you right now, though. Just give me a minute. I'm a little nervous. I don't do this a lot. I need a little sip of water. And friends in the family. Dad, this is for you. remember the ode you wrote to Carlos and me when we got married? Well, here is my reciprocal effort to you. Please forgive me if it's a little harried. Some of my earliest memories of you being my dad are quite fond, like you calling me Denny Who, smelling that old pipe, or you pretending you could cook. I know you thought we liked your food. Sorry you never knew. I remember you always wanting us to know lots of history and have many experiences, including lots of travel. Dad, sometimes you told us so many stories, I thought we would unravel. Making friends, studying hard, and becoming a Christian only begins to show the advice you gave. And I really appreciate you for always making the time to talk. Looking back on all of it now is what made me want to walk the walk. The advice you gave me about picking a husband is some I took to heart and followed to the T. It was, find a good, hard-working man who loves the Lord and loves you. Well, I followed your lead, and Carlos is the only one for me. But Dad, you just wait, my memories aren't over yet. There are a few things more I have to share. Your sacrifice to your family is unparalleled. We never doubted to this day how deeply you care. Your grandchildren have also benefited from your knowledge. Morgan, Malcolm, and Kirsten can vouch for that. When the phone rings and they see that it's you, they say, oh, it's Granddaddy. He'll want to talk about going to college. It's okay, Dad. It's okay, Dad, that you have so many dreams for them. It always is on our mind. We know you just want what's best for them, including getting an education, loving God, or just being kind. Dad, you have laid the foundation, set the mark, and raised the bar for so many of us, as you always do. We just hope that we're able to share your vision as much as we're able to. We love you, Dad.
It's been said that the superior man stands erect by bending above the fallen. He rises by lifting others. There's no truer testimony about my father than that one. To rise by lifting others, or as he used to tell us every day, leave each person that you meet better than you find them. When he asked me to talk today about him and told me I had about 3 minutes to do so, I didn't have any doubt about what I was going to say. It was just a doubt about how long it was going to take me to say it. But I thought I would share with you just 3 things that I learned from him that have been important and essential to my life. The first was how to be humble. I was reading a newspaper article that was written about him, I guess it was Thursday, and Rubel Shelley said it correctly when he said that he never wanted to call attention to himself. He's clearly not as impressed with who he is as other people are. That's just who he is. And that's carried over into all facets of his life. He also knows that when God measures a man, he puts a tape measure around his heart, not his head. And see, I heard you when we were young, and you would get up in the middle of the night and go downstairs into your office that you made into the garage and worry about things. And I would see the light on, and I would get up because I was supposed to be in the bed, but I always was curious as to what was he doing in there. And there was never any sound coming out, but I would also hear papers rustling. And as you grow up in a Christian home, you know the sound of a Bible when it rustles. You could hear it. I would hear Bible pages turning, a pause, more Bible pages turning. See, you know I was up, did you? But that was just how he lived. He wanted to provide the best for us. And what was best for us? It wasn't always the best, but it was the best for us. In fact, it took me a long time to realize, really until I got into high school, that most clothes didn't come from Sears. See, we were at Sears, Tuskins, and Winners, tennis shoes, which was great. But as I got older, what I realized is that he had already figured out that the happiest people don't always have the best of everything. They make the best of everything. Paul said it best when he said, said it best when he said, "For I have learned whatsoever state I am in, therewith to be content." He wanted us to learn to be satisfied with whatever God gave us because he knew that we had to be content with what God laid forth because that's how Christians live. That was the example that he gave us. The second thing he taught me was how to love unconditionally. There was no greater example of this than the love he shows for my mother. You guys really don't understand the things I watched him do as a child. It was always amazing to me that no matter where he was, he always made sure that he called her. Now, growing up, when you are away as he was, as much as he was, what was always amazing to me was not the call, but the fact that my mother would often wake up late and would not sleep until she got the phone call. Now, I was supposed to be in the bed again, but I was always curious as to what he was saying that would make her stay up and wait for that phone call. I'm going to tell you something just a second that's going to bring it all together. I had an opportunity to take him on vacation with me twice. We went to the Kremlins a few years ago, then went to Riviera Maya this year. And he goes through extraordinary lengths to make sure he contacts my mother. There were days when we were way out and he wanted to send someone to go get a phone card for him to be able to call my mother so he didn't have to use the hotel phone, which he did. But what I also learned was that there are some times when he would call her and he wasn't saying anything. He was listening. But you know what? That was another lesson because the first duty of love is to listen. And finally, he taught me the art of being a man. See, I knew when I went away to college, and we were very close. And we talked incessantly during the week. But there was one thing that I could always count on was a Sunday night around 9 o'clock, I would get a phone call. And on the other end would be my dad, and he would start something like, "Hey David, this your dad?" I didn't know. But I got it. The next thing he would ask was, "Well, how was the sermon today?" Now, the deal was he wasn't concerned about whether or not Howard Hazlett or Nicole Michelle Dell or Brother Red had preached a good sermon that day. He wanted to know, was I in church to hear the sermon that day? Because what he realized and what he knew was that if you're going to be a man, you got to have God in your life first. And he wanted to ensure that I knew that, and by doing that, he let me know oh so subtly that that's where it's supposed to be. So when I had to raise my daughter on my own, it never occurred to me. I didn't even think about how difficult that was going to be because I knew I already had the best example of what a father could be in my house, teaching me every day about what to do. There was no doubt that it was going to be a good thing. So that didn't mean everything was going to be perfect. It just meant that in everything I would have to learn to lean on God just as I had seen him do time and time again. He also taught me that there were times when you have a vision and you believe in something that you're going to encounter difficulties. Not everybody's going to like what you say. Not everybody's going to agree with you. The people that you think are going to be close to you aren't always close to you, but keep God first. He used to have a book of poetry that I used to read occasionally and a book of quotations that I used to get into and just go back and forth with. But one of the things that as I got to be in management and leadership and you start making decisions and everybody likes you, and he left something with me. It's been almost 20 years, and I'm sure you don't remember, but I'm going to read it to you all because I think it's important about what we're going to say. Theodore Roosevelt gave this speech in the early 1900s. But one of the things he says is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or what the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall be never known with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. Thank you for being my example of what happens when Christians dare greatly, and for teaching all of us that the greatest use of a life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Thank you.
Good evening. Being a student athlete at a university over 750 miles away has been both rewarding and challenging. No matter what is going on in my life, I've always been able to rely on my grandfather for his words of wisdom and gentle spirit. Care packages? Those are okay. Money? That's okay too. But there's only one thing that money can't buy, and that is my relationship with my grandparent. No matter where I am, I can always call him for a dose of wisdom, and he even finds time to write letters unexpectedly just to say how much he misses me. You see, you and I hold a special relationship. We may not see each other every day or talk all the time, but you seem to always be there in my mind. I remember last year when everything didn't seem to go as well as planned for track for me. I was doing well, but I had the desire to do more, but it just didn't happen. I remember when you called me and we were just talking about school and track, and I didn't even have to tell you how hard I was on my previous performances, and you said to me, even Michael Jordan didn't always have a great game. That was all the words of encouragement that I needed to help me try even harder this year academically and athletically. Granddaddy, you have taught me so much by just watching you. I've learned to have a close walk with Christ, no matter where I am, to become a better listener, become more patient with others, to think critically in certain situations, and to form ties with people that I know will want to see success in myself. There's a quote that says, a grandpa is someone you never outgrow your need for. I know that I will always be your granddaughter, no matter how old I get, how tall I get, or wherever I go. One thing that she will always say is that I can call you anytime for anything, and that you will find motivation to continue to work hard because of me, Morgan, and Malcolm. All I know is that your love for me is unwavering, and that you will bend over backwards to make sure that I am okay. Thank you for all the conversations in the sunroom, picking me up after school, calling me out in your sermons, and letting me convince you to purchase an iPhone, but most importantly, there's so much more that I can say to you, and all that you have done, but all I just want to say is I love you and happy anniversary.
In your word, Everybody else said good evening, so I'll say good evening. Many of us remember the commercial, "We've come a long way, baby." Well, we certainly have come a long way. We've come from one building and 2 outhouses to 5 buildings and numerous in-houses. We've come from 1 Wednesday night class to 7 or more Wednesday night classes and a class at noon on Tuesday. We've come from no deacons to 23 deacons. We've come from approximately 60 members to 1,300 members. We've come from 2 services on Sunday to 3 services on Sunday. We've come from a few ministries to over 70 ministries. We've come from a part-time secretary to a full-time secretary and a church clerk. We've come from no technology to a data entry team and a technology team. We've come from Sunday school to 2 4-star early childhood centers. We've come from no church buses to 5 church vans. We've come from a part-time custodian to 2 custodians. We've come from picnics in Hadley Park to picnics at our own camp and conference center. I could go on and on, but I was told to be through in 2 minutes. Yes, we've come a long way, baby, because this giant of a man with a vision for the future, along with his loving wife and family, and with the cooperation of many leaders and a willing congregation who still responds to the message, made this journey possible. I know that many years ago, down in Bastrop, Louisiana, this skinny little stuttering boy made this commitment. Oh, Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Be thou forever near me, my master and my friend. Now battle the Lord by my side, the wonder from the birthright, if thou wilt be my guide. Oh, Jesus, thou hast promised to all who follow thee, that when thou art in glory, there shall thy servant be. And Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Oh, give me grace to follow my Master and my friend.
Well, as you can tell, I'm not the President of the United States. But I did have the great honor and pleasure of working with President Barack Obama for 2 years as one of his advisors and as his Robert Wood Johnson Health Policy Fellow in working on the Healthcare Reform Act, Obamacare, which we're all very proud of. I have had the opportunity in my life to work with presidents and prime ministers and senators and congressmen and important people throughout the world. And yet I have never met a man who I admire any more than I do Brother David Jones. He is a hero for me and for so many people here in this room. You can ask my wife or anybody who knows me, I don't use that term hero very often. There are a lot of people I admire, but there are very few people that I refer to as a hero, and Brother Jones is that person for me. I came here to Nashville 3 years ago to join the faculty of Vanderbilt University, and came here earlier than that because my daughter was a student at Vanderbilt, and we had the good pleasure to visit Schrader Lane, and from that moment on we were hooked. We knew we had to find a way to get here to Nashville. So when Vanderbilt called, I knew that was God answering my prayer. Vanderbilt's great, but Schrader Lane is wonderful. So I want to say a few words tonight from the president. Faith-based groups carry a particular meaning for President Obama because, in a way, they are what led him to public service. It was a faith-based group called the Campaign for Human Development that helped fund the work he did many years ago in Chicago to help lift up neighborhoods that were devastated by the closure of a local steel plant. Now, he didn't grow up in a particularly religious household, but his experience in Chicago showed him how faith and values could be an anchor in his life. And in time, he came to see his faith as being both a personal commitment to Christ and a commitment to his community. He once stated that while I could sit in church and pray all I want, I wouldn't be fulfilling God's will unless I went out to do the Lord's work. It's great to have a president that would say something like that and actually mean it. There are millions of Americans who share a similar view of their faith, who feel they have an obligation to help others. And they're making a difference in communities all across the country. The Schrader Lane Church of Christ, under Dr. Jones's leadership, is a shining example of this transformative organization through initiatives like CCSI, which has been helping to ensure access to good and safe housing and a brighter future for those who might not otherwise have access. Or Schrader Acres, which is providing excellent care and peace of mind for senior citizens both inside and outside of the church. Or Schrader Daycare, which provides safe, affordable care for our precious children and serenity to parents who have confidence that they are leaving their children in capable and loving hands. Or to educational programs that stimulate and advance our youth through innovative educational initiatives and leadership training. And the numerous efforts locally, statewide, and worldwide to feed the hungry, care for the sick and needy, to clothe those who are without, and to teach people the gospel of Jesus Christ. When Sister Steele and Brother Etheridge approached me about getting this commendation from the president, I knew that this might be a heavy lift. After all, we're in the midst of a contentious campaign season, and President Obama hasn't had the best of luck with some preachers. Jeremiah Wright might come to mind. However, I called my friends and colleagues at the White House and told them what I wanted and needed. And after numerous phone calls and countless emails, they asked me to prepare an extensive portfolio on Brother Jones. It had to be vetted through the campaign and all such as that. Frankly, I was already in awe of Brother Jones, but I was especially in awe after I prepared this portfolio of all of the great things this man has accomplished. I just can't imagine how he could have done more. Moreover, President Obama is in awe as well. The Deputy Chief of Staff had warned me that getting this commendation was a long shot. However, once the President read about Brother Jones, he wrote a personal note of congratulations and letter of appreciation to Brother Jones and Carolyn Jones. And I will read the letter. Dear Dr. Jones, I am pleased to join your family, friends, and congregation in congratulating you on 50 years of service to the Schrader Lane Church of Christ. On this important anniversary, we are reminded of the abiding truth that each of us has the power to create a better world for ourselves and our children when we do God's work here on earth. As you celebrate this special milestone, I hope you take pride in your many contributions to your community and in all you have done to help us move toward a more perfect union. I wish you and Carolyn all the best for continued success and blessings in the years to come. Sincerely, Barack Obama, President of the United States.
Cooper. I have the honor of representing the people. That was such a touching tribute from our president, and I hope that we can all help him in his moment of trial. I've had the privilege of attending a couple of thousand banquets. And I can tell you that tonight is about the most uplifting one I've ever attended. The reason is the content, the character of David Jones. Brother Jones and Sister Jones' leadership in this marvelous congregation, you are doing wonderful things in the community and the world. And I'm only part of the legislative branch of the federal government, not the executive branch. But on behalf of the legislative branch of our government, the Congress of the United States of America, I have a flag here flown over the U.S. Capitol of the United States in honor of David Jones, Jr. and the great work of this congregation.
They told me, good evening. It's still evening. They told me to hurry up and get finished, so, and I'm going to do that. On behalf of Brother Jones and Sister Jones and all of us who love you, we'd like to say just congratulations to get this far in your life. And on behalf of all of those 350,000 people that I represent in the 19th district, we say, God bless you, and we'll do this again. Thank you very much.
I'm going to say almost good morning to you. I am Metro Council Member Edith Taylor Lancaster. I serve in the Nashville Davidson County City Council. I represent District 21, where the Jefferson Street Church of Christ was located, and where Schrader Lane Church of Christ is located, on that hill that really sends a message to the rest of Nashville that there are some people there that are doing God's work in a big way, a mighty big way. To David and to Carolyn, I want to commend you for your years of devotion to the church, for your service to our community, for the years that you have spent laboring in the vineyard, working on behalf of all the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County, for your vision to make this community and the world a better place, and for you with your boundless energy for turning your vision into a reality. You deserve each honor that is laid at your feet this night. In a time when it's difficult to get people to do something of substance for 5 hours or even 5 days, to think that you have spent 50 years at Schrader Church of Christ as its minister is just phenomenal. Congratulations on 50 wonderful years of service to God, the Schrader Church congregation, and to the Nashville community. We thank you very much.
I'm Brenda Gilmore, and I'm a state representative, District 54, and I'm delighted and honored to be a part of this wonderful historic program. And even if I wasn't a elected official, I would be humbled to be a part of this program. I love Brother Jones and his wife. They are such wonderful individuals, and they mean so much to this city, to this state, and to this United States of America. When my mother was living, I told my mother, I said, you know, Mother, if I wasn't Baptist, I think I'd be Church of Christ. And I told Brother Jones about that. Mother says, well, I tell you what, if you go over there, they're not going to let you do anything. And I said, you know what? I'm tired. I don't want to do anything. All I want to do is learn about God. But I do learn, I love your structure in your church, and I love the emphasis that you have on Bible study and God. One time, I was working at Vanderbilt University with my friend and one of your members, Joanne Finch, and something was going on very stressful at work, and the next day she came back and she says, I just want you to know, Brenda, that it's going to be okay, because last night I had 400 people praying for you. And I said, how'd you get 400 people praying for me? And she said, in prayer service last night. So thank you. Even though you don't know how you're touching this city, I just want you to know that I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Because of the lateness of the hour, I will not read all the whereases in the proclamation, but I would like to present this to you, Brother Jones and Miss Carolyn. On behalf of the governor of this great state and the 107th General Assembly, we commend you for the work that you've done, and we pray that God will richly bless you for another 50 years.
Hi, I'm Connie Kennard with the Nashville Convention and Visitors Bureau. And Nashville is known for producing musical hits. Even so much so that we now have a new TV show, Nashville, on ABC, that showcases songwriters and singers that want to make it big in Nashville. But what they didn't know is that we already have a duo here that makes harmony in the church and harmony in the community, connecting people, creating opportunities, and fulfilling visions. I would like to thank Dr. Jones for bringing and supporting one of the best Church of Christ lectureships here in 2005 that we have ever had. I would also like to thank him for connecting me to CCSI, to LACE, and I have been privileged and honored to be on 2 mission trips to Africa with a group that Brother Jones led, and I'm thankful for that. I'm a faithful member at the Cumming Street Church of Christ in Franklin, but my members jokingly say to me that I think I'm a member at Schrader Lane. And the reason why the folks at Schrader are so inviting, so I also thank you for that as well. So on behalf of the Nashville Convention and Visitors Bureau, President Butch Spearden, and myself, we'd like to present Dr. and Mrs. Jones a gold record. Of 50 years of dedicated service to Schrader Lane Church of Christ and the Nashville community. Your contributions ensure.
Would you stand and give a very rousing applause for our minister, Dr. David Jones?
I need to say thank you to everybody here. I need to say thank you for the Schrader Lane members, the elders and the committee members that honored my wife of 49 and a half years tonight. You need to know that this is truly a landmark expression of love and appreciation. But greater still, it is an intriguing and profound definition of who you are. You see, I delight in every act of love and appreciation that someone is giving to me. But really, this is about you. It's not about me. And I'm serious. See, I know that I'm a crazy visionary. I know I'm a dreamer. I know I'm a planner. And I know how to work hard. That's been my life. But no leader worth his salt would be worth anything if he didn't have somebody follow him. So when I came to Jefferson Street, since I've been at Schrader Lane, the story is about you. You were ready to be led. You were the people who did the hard work. Sure, I have the dreams. I'm gonna dream some tonight. But somebody has to believe enough. Somebody has to see it to the point that they're ready to go. You were willing to take the risk. You were ready to break the mold. And I actually tear up when I think about all of the things that we've been through together. But it's been about you. Not about me. So everything that you have done, we plowed new ground. And there are people who wonder, is it possible for a church to get along? So I started the Leadership Institute, and I asked the likes of Anthony and everybody else to come who came, and many of you are sitting here tonight. And I've never had one in 12 years. More than 1,750 people have come through, and every one of them weep when they see how a church can work when everybody's on the same page. They didn't believe it was possible that poor people, we don't have any rich members, but when we say we're gonna give, we even ask for blood over at the Schrader Lane Church. And people roll up their sleeves and give it because they want to see somebody else live. See, we believe that human beings need blood, and the only place you can get it is from another human being. So you started doing this years ago, and you still do it. I want to thank my childhood sweetheart who hung in there with me all these years. You see, as the slide said, Carolyn came out of a wonderful family. All of her uncles and grandparents and other people were faithful members of the church. Most of them were either preachers or church leaders. So she had a moral fiber that I didn't have to worry about. And when Brother Sherry and all of them taught me what to look for. And so when I was 16 really, I saw her, and her mother worked hard. Her grandparents were decent people. She had just the kinds of things that I thought a preacher ought to have. So I made up my mind I was going to marry her when I was 16, and it took me a while to get up enough money. still working on that part. But that's something that happened. She came out of this kind of family, but that was absolutely nothing in her background that prepared her to be married to a crazy preacher. I promised her mother that I was going to take care of her. See, my relationship with her is not contractual. It's more than that. I have a basic commitment to do what I said I was going to do. It's a covenant. It doesn't matter what happens. She is the most loved and protected woman on the planet. Because I said that's what I was going to do, and that I will do until I die. So thank you for hanging in there with me. I told you we were going on a romantic walk in the park, and she's still running around looking for the park. Thank you. Thank you for David and Denise, two of the best children on the planet. We gave you everything that we had: a good name, a deep faith in God, and a rigorous work ethic. You took it all and you added value to it. We were a better family because you never embarrassed us or never caused us shame. I know where you are every Sunday, wherever you are in the world, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you to our three grandchildren, Kirsten and Morgan and Malcolm, who shine as bright lights for beaconing those children who are their age, so that God will have a witness in the next generation. I'm proud of you guys, and I love you more every day. Thank you to Carlos for loving our daughter. You're our other son. And for serving as a quality example of our grandchildren, and to the church, and in the church as a father. Thank you. Thanks to my brother, who is recovering from quadruple surgery and heart surgery in California. To my sisters and their children, who were spawned by the same parents that taught us the same rigorous lessons. Thelma, who's here, Leslie, Christina, and Andy. Each of you took your own paths, and we respect that. And we want to thank you for sharing this special moment with us along our path. Thank you to Brother Sherry, who both shaped, taught, and stood by me as I developed, even to this day. I can call him anytime I want to, and don't have to call him at all, and he's still the person that I admire. I've always wanted to be like you. Thank you for being who you are. Thanks to my faithful assistants, Robert, Tim, Darwin, Mildred, Jeanette, and Bobby Ritchie. You do a great job of learning the lessons that I think I've never had to spend a lot of time trying to straighten you out about much. And even when you get it wrong, you're wise enough to stay with it until you figure it out without doing real damage. Their main job is to do whatever else I don't do, everything that I do, keep me looking good, and save me from myself. You've done a great job of all of those. Thank you so much for being who you are. Thanks to our auxiliary managers, Shirley and Melvin and Renita and Patrick Johnson and Belita Howard and Rachel Powell and Sharon Reynolds and DeMarco. You let me beat you up with new expectations, yet you perform with sacrifice and courage every single day. Very special thanks to Carla Shanks and Natalie Taylor, who had a real tough time, but I found them to be very faithful and committed, genuine, loyal servants in the kingdom. Thank you so much, ladies, for what you do. To Betty Dandridge and Jewel Parham, Donzale Phillips, and Fatima Terry and Elmer, faithful, loyal servants who serve just because. They don't need a reason, they just do it. To Justin and B. Minor. Justin is was the last of the men who shook me into service. That's been the longest handshake I've ever had in my life. But I love you because you've always been there with me, with us. You've never forgotten. And then there are the likes of those who are still working like crazy, my seniors that I really appreciate. And I can't name them all, but they outwork people who are 3 times younger than they are. The likes of Curleen Jordan and Alice Watkins and Jerry McGowan and Hazel Fields and Easter Gray and Marie Ennis and London McGill. They've been remade over with new legs and new feet and new arms and new backs and everything else. They still get up and go to work every single day. I thank God for you, and you inspire me. Thanks to my kids, the high achievers, the scholars, and all those who have given their time and energy to work with them on Saturdays to extend their learning time. And I still believe that's the solution to what happens if you're running behind everybody. You either have to run faster or run longer. And I think they're running about as fast as they can. But I thank God for my strugglers who listen and who decide that they want to change. Thanks to the elders who approved this magnificent waste of money and time. I'm going to continue to do what I need to do because it needs to be done, not because of any human recognition. Thank you for your expression of love and confidence. I will never ever forget, and I know how rigorous it was for you to do. But you didn't have to do it. I would have done it just to watch you work. Thank you so much. Thanks to Connie Elliott, Riley, those of you who chaired this entire effort. I respect you, Connie, wherever you are, more as I watched you ride herd on a stable full of brilliant, talented, energetic, creative, determined, stubborn, and loving people who made this happen. And I want to just welcome you to what I experience with all of you every day. As I state to you in frequent conversations, you just might go to heaven out of this deal. Thanks to Barbara Gill. Barbara is fantastic in lots of ways. You're captivating, determined, tireless, and can organize a dogfight in a hurricane and make it look calm. You keep doing work of the highest quality, and you have a moral compass given to you by your parents, Thomas C. and Nora Fry, my friends. I thank God for you and for what you're able to do. You're the most tireless person I know, and the early steel. Early, Walter, my tireless and brilliant, sacrificial friends. You're the most committed person, and you see no obstacles that drive your heart, only opportunities. I don't know how in the world you do all you do. With all that I know you have to do, you made this one fantastic evening. To Reba Buckley, who's bright in connections and demonstrates the sheer joy that you receive from service. Thanks to Mildred, who quietly and methodically goes about the ominous task of keeping me on track, keeping me informed, managing the pulse center of the church. I trust you, and I appreciate you more every day. Thanks to Walter and Sandra, two professionals in finance and accounting. Thanks to Florine McCandless, Phil's wife, that continues to emerge as the star of the show. You're exceptional in massive ministries because of your skill and your demeanor. To Betty Hester, Gracie Lewis, a great pair, both highly trained, faithful, from a math teacher to a singer to an accountant, now to a cook. Thank you. Thank you to Bobby and Faye, a bright, energetic pair who are all over the church, all over the community, with a camera and a bright idea. Thank you for all you do. You made this a wonderful time. Thanks for your talent and your skill. Angela Draper, for leading the decorating committee and all that you do. I wouldn't have believed that when I baptized your dad and aunt 46 years ago, along with 21 other college students, I had little knowledge that they would produce such a successful daughter. Daryl and Cheryl Elliott, thank you for all you've done. Many of you don't know, but she saw to it that we produced this wonderful book and the film and all the other things that went along with it. Thanks to my extended family, my father's and mother's kinfolk, who are so dear to us, although we seldom get to meet. Leonard Stapleton and his family, James Roy and Virginia Howard, and my working partners, the friends at Metro Schools, the Central Office, MDHA, Henderson Financial, 100 Black Men, Lipscomb University, Institute participants from Africa, those of you who traveled with me. Our fights and our risks have yielded changes in the fabric of West African country. To our neighbors who live near us, CCSI, CDAN, and TSU, and Meharry, and American Cancer Society, and Family and Children's Services, the community, and then people from Pearl, East, and Meigs, my fellow soldiers in ministry, the public officials who came and did so many things to be encouraging to me. Thank you. We've been out of preachers all over the place, and I see you. I love you and I appreciate you more than you know. The likes of J.W. Pitts, one of my kids who will be speaking tomorrow, Jack Willing, Dan Harrison, Mike Trousseau, Harold Red, Rubel Shelley, who dare to let me be me and argue vigorously and question, but they tingle inside like I do. With the joy of speaking the message of God to men and women who will listen and watch them grow just because. Many of you have followed me to the ends of the earth, to strange customs and poor living conditions and foreign countries, often to your own peril because you trusted me. Whether it was sleeping on the ground in Haiti, whether it was being arrested in Nigeria, or delayed in Amsterdam, or flying on a mail plane in Belize, landing on a dirt runway, or whether or not you fight scam artists in Ivory Coast, Frankfurt, and being diverted to Spain or Belgium, fighting bugs and mosquitoes and doing all the other things that tend to happen. And you ignored all of that and went anyway. I'm moved by the fact that you missed meals at times, risked your lives because you believed that we could make a difference in the quality of life for people. And I still believe that we're better at doing it than anybody on the planet. I also have watched you do things with your hands. Bad hips, bad backs, bad knees, bad everything. But staying all night to watch you scared to death at times in places in other countries. You couldn't go to sleep because the rats and rodents lived there and they were on steroids. But I watched you build showers and clotheslines. I watched you build garbage dumps and dig wells and lay bricks. I watched you construct makeshift clinics and classrooms and build dormitories and hospitals. And I watched you many times baptize people in strange rivers at odd hours of the night. You've done the research. You sat in the graveyard and mused about the possibility in housing projects. You made arguments with governments and drug companies and builders and shipping companies and community associations. You have driven through the night in storms to find a place to sleep, delivering supplies and storm-ravaged people. You've been too exhausted sometimes to eat or sleep while you move to change the very destiny of people who've been forgotten in the rest of the world. You're my people. You've proven time and time again, without batting, without winking, that whatever it took to get it done, you were willing to do it. And I'm still convinced that you can do it what anybody else can do. Only you do it better. Because you have shown that you not only care, but you understand. And you identify with the people that you serve. You're not just doing things because it's popular. Yes, it's hard. But you learn how to do hard things. I agree that you did build the most powerful lectureship we've ever had in our fellowship. You took all of the research, did all the work. It's the same, this same bunch. And you pass it on to somebody else and they ignore it. All I'm telling you is that I'll trust you. The things that we have to do, and I think nobody does it better than you. You're my folks. You're the folks that I love. And all I've done is watch you do what you do best. You hear a word, you hear the message, you roll up your sleeves, and you let me dream, and you take it and run. It's hard. But I contend that if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. During my next 50 years, there's some things that we need to do. In fact, on the way over here, I saw about 9 things that needed fixing tonight. You're one excellent bunch. You made my evening. It's been phenomenal. I won't ever forget it.
Keep falling in love.